Hello, and welcome to the Culture Cave. I am Anthony James, and that is Emmett. Say hi to the people, Emmett.
Beltaloda. I mean, hello.
You're only talking to the Belters now. Well, Emmett,
Yeah.
okay, this is the season finale, season 6. Seems like this is going to be the last season for a long time, if not the last season ever. I'm sure there's going to be rumblings of a season 7 now. But question to you, before we start talking about the details, are you satisfied with this show's ending? Soft ending.
So, yeah, the soft ending. So I am satisfied from it from a character standpoint on a lot of people. Obviously, I'm disappointed that there's so much stuff that is so clearly not going to be finished in the show itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's to be expected. But a lot of the character drama stuff I did enjoy. So obviously everything that was going on with Marco and Philip and everything, I thought that was all really engaging. It's so weird that they devoted like a little bit of the start of every episode this season to that plot with the kids, and then like ultimately we're not going to see the end of it in the show.
Yeah.
It's an interesting sort of choice there.
Yeah, like that might have even been the end of the short story. I'm sure it was, but I would imagine that that colony and that being happening on that colony is going to take a big part of the following trilogy. I was a similar situation to you there with that first opening story. Like I enjoyed it. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought it was actually really realistic. The way the dad just started swiping at his son with a knife, that was really realistic. Because that's the thing. Like the daughter obviously knew what was going on there, but the dad in real life, if you see your son pass away and you know that they're not alive anymore, and then they come back alive, you are going to think that there is some possession happening,
or like a zombie plague is
yeah.
beginning. I was definitely thinking. I had in my head like the old man from Pet Cemetery being like, "Sometimes dead is better.
Dead's
Sometimes
better.
dead is better."
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly. It's similar. Like I was not fully satisfied with that short story's ending. I think as it's self-contained, it's a cool story, but in the context of the rest of the show, where we are always hearing about this colony, and we know, and even the colony being brought up again through Marco being cut off from it, off, So that was interesting to me because I was like, all right, the little daughter and the son are sort of venturing out now into the forest on their own. She can't eat anything. Okay, this is setting up a really cool little story for them. Oh no, we're finished. This is the end of the Expanse, as far as we're aware.
yeah.
I like that they included it for the book readers. I'm glad they did because they got to see it. But I think it was just a little bit it didn't really unsatisfying, to be honest with you, with me for that.
It's the economy of storytelling, if you know what I mean, where it's like you have to understand like what you're using screen time for or page space for.
Yeah.
Where like it's like if this isn't going to pay off, if this isn't going to like have a conclusion, you have to sort of question why you're putting it into the show, and if it might be sort of better used to obviously explore other stuff that's going on in the show, because it's a very important finale season, where we've got a lot of character stuff going on. It's like, would that have been better served getting a bit of extra time on a few scenes to like really explore character drama? Or it's possibly a question of maybe they were doing this, leaving so many unanswered questions because they really want to drum up fan support to potentially get some future seasons, or get something to like sort of follow it up with. Maybe like a comic series or something like that to sort of explore what's going to happen. Honestly, I can't read the minds of the.
Well, there's already novels
creators
to explore what's going to happen.
Yeah, I know, but obviously
in a different format,
Yeah, the people behind the TV show obviously want to continue making the TV show. So, like,
well, I think the main people behind the TV show are actually the authors. I think they're in the writers' room. So, so it's really an interesting and all round thing. I personally, if they
that
eventually,
might be part of the reason that it stayed like they have that short story. If like the writers are in there, they're like, I want this in.
Yeah, it has to be in. Yeah, I know. I understand it. I think that my thoughts on it will completely change if we do in 5 to 10 years or whenever get that next trilogy. If we get that, then I'll be really, really happy. Or even if we get it like in the shape of 3 films or whatever they do, I'll be really happy because I can see they're setting up something. But at the minute, with this soft ending, it's setting up stuff that we're not going to see. Same with the Duarte stuff, talking about him out on the colony and Marco being cut off. Good setup, but if we don't see it, the setup is for nothing. Okay, so that's the negativity, I suppose. Not even that negative, to be honest with you. I enjoyed the story. It's just a little unsatisfying because I don't know if we're going to get the fulfillment of it. But I will say, now we're talking about the positive things. The actual drawing to conclusion of this belter in a battle, I really enjoyed this episode for that. I think that they hit the right note of like of action to personal drama with like obviously Naomi. Then you also had the whole fallout of the battle as well. I think I personally also loved the way that Marco met his end. I kind of like that he sort of just. It's also doesn't. In fact, it doesn't 100% say that he's definitely gone. You know, it's like this weird transcendental moving to another plane, or I don't know what's going on, but he got like disintegrated. I kind of like that. So overall, what did you think of the overall main sort of action driver of this episode?
Yeah, like I've been saying, like the whole season, like the actual stuff of the Belter Earth War has been like fantastic. I've loved pretty much all of it. It's been such a really climactic sort of finish for like this plot that we've been sort of exploring for the last sort of 3 seasons. You know, I've really enjoyed it. You know, obviously there's some stellar character work in this. You know, Marco is a real fun character, so obviously seeing the supposed end of that character is very dramatic, and watching as he sort of like spirals down into his own defeat is kind of great. And obviously there's a lot of, I love the fact that he kind of gets screwed over by the Gates and by Naomi. I think that's really important to her story, that she's the one that comes up with the plan that kills Marco. I think that's really important, and I'm really glad that is how that storyline ended. It wasn't like Holden that killed him, or
that was Holden's whole point, wasn't it? I think it also fits into Holden's storyline, because it means that Naomi, she did, like she said, I made the decision, so therefore don't change your actions based on that. And I really, really empathize with Holden's decision to be like, I don't even know if we touched on this too much last week, but to be Holden's decision to be like, I can't be the person that ends your son's life. I get it 100%. No more. I know they did a little bit more dialogue there, but no more was needed. That was really, really good writing, I thought.
Yeah, it's 100. Like, that's such a human reaction, even in like a war situation. It's like I can't have you like look at me and see the man who killed your son. That will destroy me. That will destroy us. It's that very, very human. And like obviously the Naomi making that sacrifice, like Naomi's a really great character. Having her be willing to make that sacrifice, and like we see that it very briefly as afterwards, that she's like so distraught and she's crying and weeping over the fact that she believes that she has killed her son. She's really struggling to.
I thought that moment was really heartbreaking, and I think that the Dominic Tipper, the actress, did a fantastic job in that moment. Dominic Tipper, this whole season, sort of, she's been through a lot. She's had a couple of moments of real intense emotion like this, but there's moments where she has a look on her face where she's just sort of seeing what happens. It's like she's sort of just almost a passenger, but not a passenger in a negative way. She's come to peace with what has to happen will happen, and she's committed to the cause, obviously. But she has a real peace about the way she's acting this role now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, she's obviously had a lot of conflict over the previous seasons on like where her space is, and she still has a bit of that, but she seems to have cemented the fact that the Rocinante is her home, and they're her people regardless of what's going on. The Rocinante, that sort of really eclectic group of weirdos and specialists, which is really good. I loved, like, there was a lot of character drama this season. Honestly, I'll say this, and I don't know, maybe if you were thinking the same thing. I'm surprised that everyone made it out. I was expecting maybe someone to go down in this finale.
For a second, I thought I was really scared Bobby was going down. See, Bobby taking the run to destroy the rail guns in the ring space. I was really worried that she was down, and then Amos jumps on top of her, and then the Rocinante itself comes around. There was a lot of sort of. The thing is, I'm gonna say this to
it
you.
was touch and go for Bobby and Amos there for
Yeah,
like a little bit. Like they were definitely the
definitely.
biggest worries, and also to a lesser extent Clarissa. Obviously we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on with Clarissa at the end, because that's another situation of like good setup, but we're not going to get the payoff for it,
Yeah,
which is a shame. But we'll come back to that.
yeah. I think it's interesting, right? The Amos moment where he jumps on Bobby and the Rocinante coming around to save them. In a lesser show with lesser writing, those would have been Deus Ex Machinas where they just like randomly come and save. But that's not the case. We know Amos. We know that he was trying to get the fellas up. That's what he would have done, 100%. Now the Rocinante would be the more culprit there, but 5 minutes before that, they were Naomi was pushing the idea, or one of them was pushing the idea that they were contemplating: should we just go and do a run and help them out? So
Yeah,
it was put in. Other shows wouldn't have done that. Other shows would have just had, they would want, we'll go for the surprise, we'll go for the Rocinante. Like, it was a surprise and it was really great, but they did build it in with just one or two lines of dialogue or one or two looks from the characters previously, which meant it wasn't a Deus Ex Machina for me. Which, to be honest
yeah.
with you, the attention to detail and the writing there really does elevate this show. Even though this last season has been a bit choked of time, the writing quality is still there.
Yeah, it's good quality. It just unfortunately being condensed into like a much shorter time frame that we would like. But yeah, no, obviously, Bobby taking at the turret, to let the
Yeah,
Rocinante be able to get there and stuff like that. But it's all about like, will the Rocinante be able to get there in time? And yeah, they get there in the end. But yeah, no, again, definitely they were the two I was most worried for, because like
mm-hmm.
obviously, Bobby is getting hit, and then Amos like basically jumps on top of her to like be a human shield. But luckily both of them, like, they're both pretty messed up by it. But you know
Yeah, Bobby has a
they're
huge, huge like thing on her back later on, which is like a huge like burn or something on the back. It's
yeah.
crazy.
And Amos has, like, it looks pretty bad as well, which obviously, because obviously before Naomi comes up with like the plan to use the ring entities
Mm-hmm.
to like kill Marco. Like, they're sort of like stranded on their own. They don't have any support, so they're expecting to go up against Marco and die. And like, the seeing two of like the physically strongest characters, so badly injured, like really adds to that idea of them being like going into this fight that they expect that they're going to die and lose, but they're all like, well, regardless, we're going to fight anyway. Like, we're
Yeah,
not going to give up. We're gonna go into this battle, broken, bleeding, but not defeated yet.
yeah. Like
Which is
it's
very cool.
it's it's cool. I like also like the idea of just running away. Like Bobby initially was like, "We'll go on. We'll refuel. We'll make an assault." So she was even thinking proactively there.
Yeah,
Whereas Amos was very much just like, we're not going anywhere. And I think that really that yeah, I really like that, and it was true to the characters. That's the
yeah,
thing. The characters have been true to themselves to the very, very end in this show.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
not one character moment where I think they've betrayed themselves.
Yeah, the core of the character. No, like Bobby was like trying to think of it all very tactically, but then obviously, as like all of her ideas unfortunately get like shut down, because it's like, we don't have the fuel, we're not going to be able to make it. Like, there's nothing we can do. We're pretty much stuck here unless someone else comes. Like, Bobby tries to think practically about it, but like, when it comes down to it, they're like, well, if we're gonna die anyway, let's really fucking wreck Marco's stuff. Like, let's really blacken his eye or break
Yeah,
his nose or something like that. We're gonna do something. We're not gonna go quietly,
yeah.
which is very, very of the Rocinante, I feel.
Well,
you know
even like if Amos or someone said about like we'll try and kill Marco or whatever, and then I think Holden was like, "Oh, we're definitely doing that." It's like,
oh yeah, we're killing Marco.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
That's the number one thing we're doing.
yeah, big old priority. Kill that guy.
Yeah,
I also think it's really good for like a in-universe standard that like Marco died to like the Ring Guardian, the Ring entities, because like it's a very, he doesn't get to go out fighting like the actual the Earthers. It doesn't. I feel like it damages his ability to be martyred by a cause, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
If he's seemingly just killed by this strange, unexplainable event, like he can't be like martyred as part of like the Free Navy's continued cause.
I think it's really interesting as well, Emmett. The idea after the battle goes, and obviously he's not martyred, but at the same time, there's an interesting conversation to be had, which is really reminiscent of real life. And I think that one thing this show's done is that really, I think they're building the progression of society, progression of the human race really well and really realistically. I think that the conversation around the table with the Mars representatives, Earth representatives, Belt representatives, and Holden as well. Obviously, he's going to be there. He's the main character. But I think that moment there where they're all around the table trying to figure out what's going on and Kamina's standing up for the Belt of people still. I love that moment. But there's a conversation to be had. Because this moment around this table would not have been possible if Marco didn't do what he did. And obviously the man is evil. Obviously the man is reprehensible. I hope we all wish that what he did didn't happen. But this is interesting what happens even in the real world. Is that after these massive unsettling moments of war or moments of terrorism, a lot of the time it actually forces people around the table. And there's a really uncomfortable maybe conversation to have there about would this have happened without Marco? And therefore, was he justified? Not justified in all he did, but you know what I mean? You know the uncomfortable conversation I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's an uncomfortable, because the answer, at least to me, is no. Like, Earth and Mars wouldn't have wanted to have this conversation if not for a bloody revolution caused by the Belters. The issue being, like, revolutions can be, and rebellions can be very important from, like, a societal progression standpoint.
Yeah.
The issue with Marcos was that, like, deep down, he was just, like, nihilistic and, like, really wanted to hurt people.
Yes.
And, like, was sadistic on some level. Like, he talked about the cause, but on some level, like, the cause was always just about him, which is what Philip obviously realizes, in the end of this, season.
Yeah.
He sort of realized that, for his father, it's all just been about him, not about the actual movement that they've
and they did that as well successfully with that. I didn't really like the device of that blonde woman, that other character who's like just Marco's conscious on his shoulder, but they were able to make it so, that Marco's revolution meant something politically or whatever, but he was still an evil madman based, there were some subtle things they did which meant that both could be true,
Yeah, it's like, it's like Drummer obviously is the example of, like, she, it's not that she just, like, loves to work with the inners, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She dislikes working with the inners, but and, like, is very, like, negative and pushes back on them a lot. And, like, you could see in a different world Drummer leading a rebellion against the inners, like, if not for, like, Marco. You could see a world where that happens instead.
You could,
and she would be.
Sorry, and Drummer was making fantastic points as well, actually, about it being put back in the box. Belters, they wanted us to put this. I'm not going to say the whole dialogue here, but I thought the moments around the table and Kamina holding her own and saying we're not letting history repeat itself. I was really, really invested. I didn't think once the battle was done, I think, okay, that was really cool. Now how are they going to end this? I was most invested in the 10 minutes after the battle. I really was.
Me too. Like, the battle and stuff was all very, like, great climactic and a lot of great character moments. The bit where, like, we actually see them around the discussion table, like, because that's what happens, like, really after a war. Like, this is the moment where, like, treaties are drawn, where decisions are made. This is what sort of dictates the future of the human race. And it was really, really good to see that. And, like, you got like the perspectives of people, but you obviously understand that, like, what needs to happen. Like, we understand that, like, the Belt needs to have a voice, otherwise you're just going to have another free navy eventually. But, like, all this political stuff is obviously going on in the background of Mars and Earth, and it's very, very interesting, And I could watch a whole other episode just of them at the discussion table,
Yeah, no, I loved it. I think that's what I mean about it being realistic, and, like, I love the way the show has done it in, like, sort of building the progression of society, because now you have this new, like, trade organization, transport organization thing, transport union is what it's called, and, like, it's independent. And, like, we've seen the progression of the society really, really naturally. Now let's talk about Holden here, because I think
Holden,
I didn't see this coming. I really didn't see this coming. I thought that, okay, well, that sort of puts Holden in a different position for the final trilogy, elevates him somewhere else. Now he has more sway, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, Holden actually is, again, sticking to who he is as a character. He's actually being who the man we know he is. And I thought the moment where he said, my first act is to step aside, I thought it was unbelievable.
Yeah, because obviously he had set it up in such a way that like as soon as he steps down, drummer takes over and he does it in front of the press
Yeah.
so that it can't be stopped. And like if anyone attempts to do anything about it, it completely, destroys their political influence and stuff like that. Just such a great moment. And like I feel like, I was surprised, and so was Avasarala, to be fair, up until the moment where Holden didn't get off the podium. She's like,
That
oh,
was
fuck,
cool.
he's up to something. Yeah.
I thought that was a really good device to show that he was going from his own heart at that point, because like they showed the teleprompter and then like it showed it ending and then he kept going. I thought that was a really good device to do that.
Yeah, and like obviously Avasarala was expecting to get up, but obviously after he didn't move, she was like, "Oh, go back to where I was standing. Don't make a big deal out of it yet." And I loved her little moment of like, "Don't you fucking do it."
Yeah, she knew. Like, she knew. Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a great moment because I feel like it would have been. From a narrative perspective, it would have been acceptable for like Holden. I think like the audience probably would have just sort of been like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Holden is as close to a neutral party as you can kind of get, but it's also very Holden to just be like, yes, I'm going to pretend like I'm doing what you want me to do, and then I'm going to change the plan at the last second to the thing I think is right, and screw the rules. I'm doing the honorable thing.
It's basically what he did with the Marco Inaros missile earlier on in the season too.
Yeah. Well, it's like Avasarala calling him a fucking optimist, and so it's like even at Holden's most cynical, oftentimes he like really wants to believe in people, so like and he wants to take risks. So like that's 100% like, and I love the fact that Drummer is now because Kamina Drummer has been one of the show's best characters, and just watching her arc to her now being in charge of this massive organization that like and sort of reclaiming it for the belt a bit, I'm very happy about that.
I'm really interested in that actually, because I know through comments or through talking to people, last year or whatever, whenever we were much earlier in the show, apparently Kamina Drummer's role in the show is an amalgamation of lots of different characters.
Yeah, I'm wondering what.
I'm wondering, is it actually in the book Kamina Drummer who becomes the head of the transport union? Maybe it is. Like maybe the fact that she is the one who becomes the head of the transport union is that's why they chose that character to be all these other characters.
Perhaps. Well, again, let us know in the comments, obviously. But I obviously when we get around to reading the whole novel series, I'll be very interested rather to see who sort of takes that sort of position. Because I understand for like TV shows you have a lot less time than books, so oftentimes you have to just sort of amalgamate characters to make it sort of like flow better. Which makes sense. So like Drummer, regardless of who she is in the book, is a great character in the TV show, and I've really loved everything that's going on in her life, and I hope that she gets at least part of her family back now that the war has ended, and she's now in this incredible position of power.
Well, you would imagine she would. I think she would. Like they showed in the previously on episode or whatever, her family leaving her behind. Yeah. So I'd imagine that was obviously build up the emotions she's taking into it, but I'd imagine she's going to get some of them back anyway. So there you go. Actually, no, we saw them in the scene where Holden was given the speech. I think there was a few of them watching in the audience. There anyway. Right, so there you go. We are going to. I'm going to say we look forward to the next season, but I'm going to be looking forward for a long time. It seems. I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes, even in book form when we get around to reading it. But
we'll meet you back here in 30 years, and we'll talk about the 7th and 8th and 9th season. You know,
that's exactly what we'll do. I've really enjoyed this ride with the Expanse. I think there's way more good than there was bad. In fact, I'd say there's way more good than there was mediocre, because I don't think there was ever anything bad. It was a great show, and it will be missed in my opinion. I would have loved to have 3 or 4 more episodes, but that's probably how I feel about all shows that I like. So there you go, Emmett. Well, any final thoughts?
Just with these sort of underrated gems that you have, you got to appreciate them while they're there. I think that's the big takeaway from things like The Expanse. It never got to be like the major blockbuster that I think a lot of the creators like wanted it to be, but it was still a really great show, and I'm really glad that we at least got this final season to like wrap up like a lot of the biggest plot developments and stuff. And again, probably like yourself, I'm looking forward now to get reading the books and learning even more about this world. You know.
Yeah, I agree. One of my children has just clicked the PlayStation button from the other room. So there we go. Perfect time to end it. I will see you later, Emmett. We'll be back, guys. Emmett and I will be back. We don't know what we'll be talking about yet, but we're gonna be back talking about something. That's for sure. Until the next time, subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you later. Bye.